Hi, Sema community, ethical energy partners. Welcome to season 4, Aromas and Scents. This is chapter 3. And you are with Kim, and we are going to be exploring the academic, intellectual, and business intersections with the spiritual season of aromas and scents. Have you ever heard the term your reputation precedes you? Well, this will be looking into reputation because the season of aromas and scents is directly corresponding to intimacy, commitment, and fidelity. What are we known to be committed to? How do we present and show up? And how do we endure behind the causes and the purposes that we claim we stand for? So let's read this chapter together. And the text will be coming from Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 27 to 33. Then Ruth, the book of Ruth, chapter 3, verse 3, 10, and 11. And then Proverbs chapter 5, verse 2, 15, and 18. The title of this lesson is It Will Be Well with Them Who Emit the Fragrance of a Good Reputation. So let's let the word speak for itself. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 27 through 33. Go near and hear all that the Lord our God shall say, and speak thou unto us all that the Lord our God shall speak unto thee, and we will hear it and do it. And the Lord heard the voice of your words, and when you spoke unto me, and the Lord said unto me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which they have spoken unto thee. They have well said all that they have spoken. Oh, that there were such a heart in them, that they would fear me and keep all my commandments always. It will be well with them and with their children forever. Go to them, get you into your tents. But as for thee, stand thou here by me, and I will speak unto thee all the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which thou shalt teach them, that they may do them in the land which I gave them to possess it. Ye shall observe to do, therefore, as the Lord your God has commanded you. You shall not turn to the right hand or to the left. You shall walk in all the ways which the Lord your God has commanded you, that ye may live, and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land you shall possess. Ruth chapter 3, verse 3, 10, and 11. Wash thyself and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor, but make not thyself known unto the man until he have done eating and drinking. Verse 10. And he said, Blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than in the beginning, inasmuch as thou followed not young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requirest, for all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 2, 15, and 18. That thou mayst regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. So thank you, Summer Community, for reading the scriptures along or reading as they were recited. And this is a season about aromas and scents. The main points of this session are: number one, intimacy, whether it's in a marriage, whether it is for a cause, whether it's for activism, whether it is for a study of a body of knowledge. Intimacy with anyone, God, an entity, a partner, requires knowledge. And that is why to have a heart to know me, as God said, it is required to be committed in order to learn. And only when there is knowledge, intimate knowledge of someone, is there actually intimacy in that equation. So that's point number one. Intimacy requires a in-depth knowledge of the person, the deity, or the specific subject, topic, or discipline that we are attaching ourselves to. Point number two, it is customary or there is a confirmation sent to mark or to give a signature of what we have been committed to. What our commitments actually are leaves a scent both in the spirit and in the reputation among people and beings. So whether or not we deliberately try to do so, we have a reputation. And it's really important to make sure that we stand on what we say we stand on, and then also make sure that we don't let false claims or disinformation get spoken about us. It has to be addressed. And point number three is fidelity. Different from intimacy and commitment, fidelity almost always is spoken about in the context of temptation, in the context of trial or tribulation. We could have had intimate knowledge of somebody, we could have been committed to somebody, a cause, or to God, but being proven faithful and being found of a fidelity attribute, having that fidelity means that we survive some kind of temptation, test, or tribulation. So not only do we want to have a good name, we wanted to show that we're committed and that we have survived tests, tribulations, and we came out with passing sense. So now we've read the scriptures. What are some key nuggets to take away with this? Because there's definitely relevance. What kind of scent, what kind of aroma, what kind of vibes are surrounding us regarding our commitment levels. So in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 29 and 33, number one, we have to be students. We need to know the rules, regulations, the values, the purposes, and the likes, dislikes of God, to have intimacy with God. Because when God approaches us, our knowledge of God is going to leave a scent. Our lifestyle is going to show whether or not we have an intimate knowledge of God and that we have a heart to know Him and to have walked in what we know of God. So in review, Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 29, oh, that there were such a heart in them. If they would have a heart to know me, to study me, they would have genuine intimacy with me, and it's going to be well with them and their children. That is a very powerful concept and a fact that when we have intimate knowledge of God, there's going to be choices that we are going to make and not make, and the cumulative effect will allow it for our lives to be well. Next, the topic of commitment. Now, Ruth and her love story with Boaz really showed how two people who had the heart of God, a heart that pursued God, qualified them to be married to a spouse who was godly. Now, this was what allowed them to have a happy, compatible marriage, but understand that they had to first and foremost have had commitment to God, and that commitment and intimate knowledge of how God feels about sex and romance qualified Ruth and qualified Boaz to be happily yoked, to be compatibly yoked. And so priesthood, or whether it's academia, intellectual scholars, historians, it's really important to know that commitment and that knowledge is being watched. Your reputation is preceding you. And that reputation is indicative that, hey, if you're a part of the clergy, or if you're in business, or you're in academia, your reputation for what kinds of results you produce will leave a scent. It will leave a trail about you. And we see in Ruth chapter 3, verse 10, especially, her decorum in how she kept herself from fornication was being noted, not just by Boaz, it was being noted by the entire community. In Ruth chapter 3, verse 10, and Boaz said, "Blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than in the beginning, insomuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich." Ruth was not chasing all kinds of stray dudes. She was not. She was a woman of standard, and her standards were deeply defined by God's standards. And the community around her was making note. So business professionals and those people in academia and intellectual communities, there's files on everybody. People know what kind of aroma we are giving off. Now, in the dating realm and in partnerships and in spouse pursuits, that actually is a very, very, very big deal. Some places and some cultures are more lax than others, but it's always being noted. And so it's really important, if we want it to be well with us, to have a lifestyle that emits the fragrance of discretion. The discretion, knowing what lines not to cross, who not to be associated or caught up with, not having stray entanglements. Ruth's clean reputation allowed her to be qualified for Boaz. Boaz being a man of reputation, not being in the bars, in the pubs, not a ladies' man, allowed him to be highly esteemed in the eyes of Ruth. So commitment, and that translating into our romantic choices, is always being noted, and it leaves a scent trail. So that reminds us of like when bloodhounds have to pick up the scent of somebody to find somebody who's missing. In a similar sense, in the reputation of the business sector or in the dating pool, people can pick up your scent, where you've been, what has been involved or associated with you. And it's important. Good reputations. Number 3, fidelity. In Proverbs chapter 5, the concept of fidelity really comes up, because herein we have a good example of when a follower of ethical, moral backgrounds is living in a way, particularly romantically, in where they know who they are, they know what they're looking for, and they do not do all types of random romantic sexual entanglements. So, in Proverbs chapter 5, verse 2, that thou may regardeth discretion. And in verse 15, drink out of thy own cistern. The end game for aromas and scents romantically is really to find the person or person of a character attributes that one can be compatibly and ethically yoked with. It's not about experiencing as many people as possible. That is actually by Judeo-Christian standards, especially, that's failure. That's a lack of self-control, and it's a lack of identity awareness. To not know who you are, what you want in a relationship, and to find that person that you could be equally yoked with. Such a search definitely requires introspection, commitment in getting to know the person, not just knowing them physically. And so, where were the temptations? Because to be faithful, to end up with the blessings of Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 18, let your fountain be blessed. That means your fountain, it's well with you. And how is one's fountain blessed? Having a highly harmonious marriage, or being celibate and happy. That's being blessed. And in that blessing, you could rejoice in the spouse of your youth, rejoice in the wife of your youth, and that discretion pays off. But what's the temptation? What are we trying to avoid? We're trying to avoid Proverbs chapter 5, 3, 11, and 12. In those verses, you see the promiscuity hookup culture eat away and consume, not particularly the man. The man's life and wealth is consumed, which means depleted, not having anything to show, or having been subject to a lot of assault or injuries in the process of the promiscuity random hookup culture, because we are in aromas and scent. So in that respect, in verse 3, for the lips of a strange woman drop as honeycomb, her mouth is smoother than oil. In verse 11, you will mourn in the last days, you will mourn, and your flesh will be consumed. Not only does it talk about the years wasted in unfruitful relationships that don't help you build wealth, that don't help you build assets and security, that don't provide a stable home for you and your children, there's diseases that could be attached to Proverbs chapter 5, verse 11. We know a more promiscuous lifestyle opens the doors to diseases, both natural and physical. And one's body and youth and vitality can be consumed. That means depleted, siphoned, or utterly drained. And people who take care of themselves and are in happy, harmonious relationships where both individuals are pouring into each other, you look great. You look energized. You look like life is well with you. So we don't want people who don't take the time to know us, who are not committed to our purposes, our upliftment, and our long-term thriving. Not just surviving, but thriving. So we looked at the relationship aspects and what kind of temptations that we definitely want to avoid. And as we ponder this, what are the other intersections with business, intellectual study, historian work? Well, brand base, customer base, being faithful to rolling out products of a high quality that say that they're going to do something and do it. Knowing that your business partners are on the same vision and mission statement as you and follow through. Being equally yoked, not just in romance, but in your business partnerships, in one's network of connections, being equally yoked in what companies you want to frequent, and that their platform, the way they do business and how they source their resources are compatible with your values as a consumer. All of these also factor into the overall life, aroma, and sense. And so it is something that we can be proud that we are associated with, that we can be happy and pleased that we are contributing to that type of relationship, that kind of tie, and that kind of association. So that brings us to the end of aroma and sense. I hope that we have a reminder or confirmation or new knowledge about how we have intimacy, how we commit, and what fidelity looks like really has a positive effect on our choices, so we too can leave a aroma and scent of commitment towards those causes and purposes that we can be proud that we are associated with. And with that, have a great day. We have additional resources in the description below, and may it be well with you.